On a cold night, a girl named Susan is dragged out into a shed by her father because he can't stand looking at her. He wishes Susan had never been born and he plans to leave her out here all night. But a few minutes later, her brother Jinta comes out and tries to get free her. However, he is shocked to discover that she's not there. He frantically runs around the village looking for Susan, and he eventually finds her as she's crossing a bridge to leave the village. He rushes over to her and apologizes for not being able to protect her from their father's abuse, because he will just get in trouble if he tries to protect her. Susan was born with a demon eye, and this is feudal Japan, so she has been labeled as a cursed child and is treated like a worthless pest. She knows there's no way she can live a normal life with an eye like this, so she tells Jinta to just go home without her. Jinta stands there for a moment, contemplating his next move, and eventually he decides that he loves his sister more than the rest of the family, so he takes her hand and asks her to run away with him. Together they flee their old home. But it's still raining, so it's starting to get really cold out here. They have nowhere to go for shelter, so Jinta takes Susan to the remains of an old building, and the two huddle up together to try to conserve body heat. Susan has already fallen asleep, and Jinta is about to pass out as well. But before he does, he notices a man approaching them, and he says something about taking them in. By the time Jinta wakes up, he finds himself being carried by the man with Susan walking alongside him. The man is relieved to see that Jinta is finally awake, so he sets him down and they continue walking until they get to the man's village. The village is mostly inhabited by blacksmiths who specialize in forging katanas, so everyone is hard at work right now. The man leaves Jinta and Susan to his house, and as soon as he opens the door, his daughter runs out to greet him. She is happy to see him, but she's also curious about the two kids standing behind him. So the man tells her that Jinta and Susan will be living with them from now on. He asks his daughter if she's okay with that, and she actually seems thrilled by the idea, since that means she'll have friends to play with. She walks up to Jinta to introduce herself as Shirayuki, and she hopes all three of them can get along with each other from now on. That night, Jinta is having trouble getting to sleep, so Motoharu asks him if something is wrong. Motoharu is currently cleaning his sword, so Jinta asks him if he is a samurai, but Motoharu says he is actually a sentinel, so his job is to keep important people and places safe. Later, Jinta and Susan join Shirayuki and Chitose by the river. On the way home, Jinta asks about Shirayuki's mother, Yoki's, who helped him and Susan stay in the village. Shirayuki explains that Yoki's is an Itsukihime, a fire god's maiden, and can only be seen by the village chief and her husband, Motoharu, her sentinel. The next day, Jinta trains with Motoharu, but as a novice in sword fighting, he's easily knocked to the ground without Motoharu breaking a sweat. He tells Jinta that he still has a long way to go, but if he keeps practicing, then he will surely become a master someday. Years go by and Jinta has become the new sentinel of the Shrine Maiden, so he is attending a meeting between all the village officials and the Shrine Maiden. She is hidden behind a curtain so no one can see her directly, and as the meeting begins, she commends Jinta for his excellent demon-slaying abilities. He tells her he is just doing his job by keeping this village safe, and the most recent demon he encountered tried using a human form to sneak into the village. One of the officials starts getting nervous once Jinta says this, and the others ask if he has any idea why a demon would want to sneak into the village. One official suggests that the demon may be after the Shrine Maiden, because legend has it that if a demon eats the liver of a Shrine Maiden, it will become immortal. But it might also be after the sacred Uri sword. It has been passed down by the Shrine Maidens for generations, and it is quite important, so it would make sense for the demons to be after it. One of the officials mentions that the Uri sword was created by one of the best blacksmiths known to man, and it is said to have mystical powers imbued within it. If the demons are truly after the Uri blade, then it could spell trouble for the entire village, so the chief tells everyone to remain vigilant. But Kiyomasa says there's nothing to worry about because both he and Jinta are in charge of guarding the Shrine Maiden, but he personally thinks Jinta isn't qualified for the job. Jinta and Kiyomasa are about to start arguing, but the chief and the Shrine Maiden tell them to quiet down. The meeting is now over, so everyone leaves the shrine except Jinta because it's his job to guard the Shrine Maiden. Now that they are alone, the Shrine Maiden comes out of her room, and it turns out to be Shirayuki. Jinta asks her what she's doing because the Shrine Maiden shouldn't allow herself to be seen so carelessly. But she and Jinta have been best friends for ages, so she sees no need for formalities. She tells him that Susan is here too, but the shrine is supposed to be off-limits to regular people, so she really shouldn't be here. Susan doesn't look like she's grown up at all in the past few years, and when Jinta and Shirayuki wake her up, she's elated to see her big brother again. Jinta has been so busy with demon slaying that she barely ever gets to see him, but while he's happy to see her too, he scolds Susan for coming here since the shrine is off-limits. She doesn't understand why she can't visit Shirayuki, but Jinta gets to see her whenever he wants, but rules are rules, so Jinta tells her to go back to their house. After Susan leaves, the chief soon returns to the shrine, and he has something important he has to discuss with Shirayuki, so he asks Jinta to give them some privacy. Jinta initially refuses because it is his duty as Shirayuki's sentinel to be by her side at all times, but Shirayuki tells him he can take the day off. So Jinta eventually relents and heads home for the day. Meanwhile, outside the village, two demons have set their sights on Susan because of her demon eye. That evening, Shirayuki sneaks out of the shrine and meets up with Jinta because she has something important she wants to tell him. When the chief came to speak with her earlier, he told her that she should focus on producing an heir to replace her in case she ends up being killed by the demons. It sounds morbid, but the chief is right, so Shirayuki needs to get married soon, and it was decided that she will marry Kiyomasa, mostly because he is the son of the chief and will eventually become the new chief of the village. Jinta isn't sure how he should feel about the news, and Shirayuki isn't happy about it either. She admits that she is in love with Jinta, and honestly she snuck out here, fully intending to ask Jinta to run away with her and start a new life. But she knows he would never agree to that. Jinta took an oath to protect this village and trained for years to become strong enough to defend it, and Shirayuki took the same oath when she became the village's shrine maiden. So if they were to run away now, it would be an insult to everything they have worked for. More time passes and Jinta is once again called into a meeting where he is informed of a demon siding out in the forest. He is tasked with slaying the demon, so he prepares to head out immediately. However, before he leaves, Kiyomasa stops him. He knows Jinta must have heard the news about Shirayuki getting married to him, so he doesn't understand why Jinta is acting like he's not upset. Jinta tells him there's nothing to be upset about because the only things that matter to him are the safety of his shrine maiden and the village. The crazy thing about this is that Kiyomasa isn't even trying to gloat about marrying Shirayuki. He knows Jinta is in love with Shirayuki, and she is in love with Jinta, so it just feels messed up for him to marry her. But Jinta has already made his decision, so he leaves the village to complete his mission. Once he makes it out into the forest, Jinta is suddenly attacked by the bulky demon. Before the fight begins, he asks the demon if it's alone, because the report said there were two demons out here, and the bulky demon explains that his partner had some business to attend to in the village. That doesn't sound good, but Jinta is going to have to deal with this guy first before he can head back to deal with the second demon. He dashes forward and with a heavy swing he's able to sever one of the demon's arms, but the demon keeps attacking, so he's forced to back away. The demon picks up its severed hand and it isn't even upset about losing it. He is just impressed that Jinta was skilled enough to cut it off. Meanwhile, in the village, Susan is confronted by the demon baddie, and she is absolutely terrified. The demon tells Susan that there's no need to be so frightened because Susan is a demon just like her, but Susan refuses to believe it. The demon takes one look at Susan and realizes that her love for Jinta must be keeping her from becoming a full demon, and she finds it quite oppressive because Jinta must have showered Susan with constant love and affection to make her such a good person. Susan loves Jinta with all her heart, so hearing the demon praise, Jinta puts her at ease. Now that Susan is no longer scared of her, the demon tries to convince Susan to use her powers to help her. She even promises that she won't hurt Susan in any way, and everyone knows demons can't lie, so she says Susan can trust her. However, Susan rejects her offer because there's a chance that the demons might hurt Jinta. The demon girl can't deny that, so she tries using a different method to convince Susan and shows her a vision. The vision shows Shirayuki undressing and getting ready to take back shots in the shrine, and seeing this makes Susan sick. But because of the back shots, because it wasn't Jinta giving them to her, she asked the demon if what she saw was real, so she explains that her ability allows her to see into the future. She can also share visions of the future with others as well, which is what Susan just saw. But if Susan still doesn't believe her, then she's willing to take her to the shrine right now so she can see it in person. Meanwhile, Jinta is still fighting the bulky demon, but before the fight continues, he wants to know why the demons attack humans in the first place. The demon explains that it is simply its purpose in life. Demons don't necessarily have to kill humans, but every demon has an intended purpose they must fulfill. And right now, the bulky demon's purpose is to stall Jinta. Bulk has the power of assimilation, so he can acquire the abilities of other demons by eating them, even allowing him to alter his body at will. Jinta can't afford to hesitate here, so he charges forward in an attempt to kill Bulk once and for all. However, he immediately gets his arm punched off, and when he tries to slash Bulk's neck, Bulk shatters it with his teeth. By all accounts, Jinta should be a dead man, but at the last second he reaches back and grabs a piece of his shattered sword. He then plunges the fragment deep into Bulk's heart before Bulk could retaliate, so Jinta emerges victorious. Bulk accepts his defeat, and he's actually quite happy because this means he has fulfilled his purpose. He explains that the other demon he came with has the power of foresight, and she has used it to look far into the future, 170 years to be exact. And according to her vision, the strongest demon of all time lives here, which is why they came in the first place. As soon as Bulk mentions a demon living in the village, Jinta realizes he must be talking about Suzune. But before he can react, Bulk says he's going to give Jinta a gift to congratulate him on his victory. A second later, Bulk's severed arm grabs Jinta's head and begins squeezing him until he passes out. Meanwhile, over in the shrine, Kiyomasa is on top of Shirayuki. All he needs to do is make a child with her, so he is hoping to get it over with once and for all. And since Jinta is away on a mission, this is the perfect time. Otherwise, Jinta would have to sit outside and listen to the sound of Shirayuki getting pile-dried, and Kiyomasa feels bad enough about this already. However, before anything could happen, the demon girl tears through the curtains to show Suzune what's going on, and she's absolutely devastated. At the same time, Jinta wakes up in the forest, and for some reason, his missing arm has been restored. But he doesn't have time to worry about that because Suzune might be in trouble, so he starts running back to the village. Meanwhile, Suzune is still trying to understand what she just witnessed. It was unbearable to see Jinta in love with Shirayuki, but Suzune was willing to put up with it if Jinta got to be happy. She can stop herself from growing up so she wouldn't get in the way of Jinta and Shirayuki's relationship. But now she finds out that Shirayuki is marrying a different guy. This was the final straw, so Suzune snaps and becomes unhinged. She was so frustrated that Shirayuki would betray Jinta's love, and after a few suggestive words from the demon girl, Suzune decides to kill her. Her demon power suddenly awakens, and the whole room is filled with black smoke as Suzune takes an adult form. Kiyomasa takes the legendary sword and tries to attack Suzune, but the demon girl knocks him out before he could do anything. She then takes Kiyomasa's body outside because she has something she wants to do, leaving Shirayuki alone with Suzune. Jinta soon arrives at the shrine, and Shirayuki is still alive, so she runs into his arms, but a second later, her head is cut off by Suzune. Jinta is frozen in shock by what just happened, and a moment later, Suzune appears behind him holding Shirayuki's head. Jinta asks Suzune why she would do such a thing, so Suzune starts explaining the whole thing about Shirayuki marrying another man. But he already knew about it, and even if he didn't, it doesn't give her the right to kill Shirayuki. Jinta realizes that the Suzune he cared for is long gone, and with Shirayuki dead, he has nothing left except hatred. The demon arm begins to integrate with the rest of his body, transforming Jinta, and now he is looking at Suzune with pure disdain. She doesn't understand why he looks like he hates her so much when all she was trying to do is make him happy. She takes this to mean that Jinta is going to abandon her just like everyone else, so she decides to just kill him. However, as she stabs Jinta in the stomach, she realizes it did almost no damage, and Jinta proceeds to punch a hole straight through her body. Suzune manages to survive the punch, so Jinta tries to finish her off, but at the last second, the demon girl jumps in and sacrifices herself to save Suzune. She tells Suzune to get out of here while she has the chance, so she starts walking away. But before she leaves, Suzune tells Jinta that she has nothing left in this world, so no matter how many years it takes, she's going to make sure she destroys everything. On the final day, she will be back to kill him for betraying her. The story continues. We see by the 1850s, Jinta, now known as Jinya, had built up an excellent reputation as a demon hunter, so one day he is summoned by a wealthy man for a special mission. The man introduces Jinya to his assistant, Zenji, and tells him he can ask Zenji for any extra details about the job. He then gets up and leaves the room, so Zenji greets Jinya and asks him how much he already knows. The man already told Jinya about his beloved daughter Natsu, and how he wants Jinta to protect her from a demon that has appeared lately. But there's a little more to the story than that. Basically, Jinya is going to be working as Natsu's bodyguard, because ever since she turned 13, she says she has been hearing a demon outside her room. The demon would constantly say things like "return my daughter to me," so Natsu is terrified that the demon might kidnap her. Speaking of Natsu, she suddenly comes storming into the room looking for Zenji. She notices Jinya sitting there and assumes he must be a bodyguard that her father said he would hire, but when Jinya tries to introduce himself, she cuts him off. She doesn't want anything to do with him and tells him to leave immediately because he is obviously some kind of scam artist who only claims to be a demon slayer. Zenji tries to convince her that Jinya is a genuine demon slayer because her father went to great lengths to find him, but Natsu refuses to listen and demands that Zenji kick Jinya out. Later that night, Natsu is sitting up in her bed because she is still scared that the demon will return, so Zenji shows up and sits outside her door to calm her nerves. Having Jinja probably would have been better, but since Natsu chased him away, Zenji is going to have to act as her bodyguard instead. He's not sure how useful he would be in a fight against a demon, but if it will make her feel better, he promises to stay on guard until morning so she can get some sleep. Natsu is glad that Zenji came to protect her, but he still doubts that a demon will show up at all. Natsu is disappointed to hear that Zenji doesn't fully believe her, and it was the same with her father, because why else would he hire a shady samurai to slay a demon? Zenji can't be sure that Natsu's father believes that demons exist, but he can guarantee that her father is taking this seriously. He cares about Natsu's well-being wholeheartedly, even though she's not biologically related to him. Just then, Natsu hears the demon's voice again, and it sends shivers down her spine. She begs Zenji to help her, but he's just as scared as she is once he sees the demon. He tells Natsu to stay inside her room while he handles this, but he has no idea how he's going to defeat this thing. Just before the demon could get its hands on Zenji, his arm is suddenly cut off by Jinja. Jinja asks the demon to identify itself at first, but when it doesn't respond, he decides to just cut it in half with one swing of his sword. The demon falls to the floor and disintegrates into black smoke, so Zenji and Natsu are safe for now. Natsu recognizes Jinja as the samurai she kicked out earlier today, so he turns around and asks her if she still thinks he's a scam artist. Natsu asks him if the demon is dead, but killing it isn't going to be that easy. In Jinja's experience, demons are only truly dead once they turn into white mist, so since this one turned into black mist, it will definitely be back. The next morning, Zenji formally thanks Jinja for saving them last night, and since the demon is going to come back, he asks Jinja to stick around for another night. Jinja says he'd be happy to help, but he has a few questions he would like to ask about Natsu. He's been curious ever since he heard the demon say, "Return my daughter to me," so he wants to know if there's a story behind it. Zenji explains that Natsu's real parents are part of the boss's extended family, but they passed away a while ago, so the boss took Natsu in and raised her as his own. And in case Jinja is worried, Zenji assured him that there's no way that Natsu is a demon child, because if she were, there's no way the boss would have even considered adopting her. The boss's wife was killed by demons, and following that, his son ran away and hasn't been seen since. The boss blames the loss of his family on the demons, so he hates all demons with every fiber of his being. Later that evening, Natsu is having dinner with her father, and he asks her if everything has been going all right with her new bodyguard. At first, she was a little skeptical of Jinja, but after seeing him in action, she's sure that he's the real deal. Although Natsu is curious why her father chose to hire Jinja specifically, he tells her that there have been rumors of demons prowling around Edo recently. But at the same time, there are also rumors of a man who can slay any demon with a single slash as long as he gets paid for it. Natsu's father has personally verified the rumors, so he knew there would be no better person to hire as Natsu's bodyguard. Natsu is glad to learn that her father was really taking her seriously when she told him about the demon because his love is all she cares about. Natsu has been very happy ever since he adopted her, but at the same time she's been constantly tormented by all the hateful gossip people spread about her. Later that night, Zenji and Jinja are sitting outside Natsu's room as planned, when all of a sudden she comes out and asks Jinja to tell her his name because she didn't let him introduce himself before. Natsu's father seems to think highly of him, so she has decided that she's going to put her faith in him as well. Jinja can tell that Natsu is quite fond of her adoptive father, Juzo, but that's normal because he took her in and gave her a place to stay, so she's very grateful to him. While they are on the topic, Jinja asks her about a rumor he heard involving Juzo's lost son. But as soon as he brings that up, Natsu yells that she doesn't know anything about it. This is clearly a sensitive topic for her, so Jinja decides to let it go for now so he doesn't upset her. Natsu then asks Jinja if it is possible for a human and a demon to have a baby together, and Jinja answers yes. So Natsu starts thinking that she might really be the daughter of that demon that keeps attacking. But Jinja assures her that she is not related to that demon in any way. Natsu asks Jinja how he could possibly be so sure, so Jinja explains that he has a bit of history with this demon, so he knows it can't be Natsu's mother. There are various ways that a demon can be born in this world. It can come from two demon parents, a demon and a human, or in rarer cases, a demon can spawn from nothing. Demons like this come from the essence of strong emotions, especially negative ones. And when those negative feelings accumulate within people, they can sometimes take the form of a demon such as this one. Natsu starts freaking out after seeing the demon again, so Jinja casually walks up to it and starts asking it to state its name. The demon doesn't seem intelligent enough to understand what Jinja is saying. As it lunges at him, Jinja smacks it across the face and pins it to the ground. Zenji urges Jinya to hurry up and kill the demon already, but Jinya replies that if he does, it will just keep coming back. Natsu asks him why, so Jinya explains that it was her emotions that gave birth to this demon. The demon appeared in response to Natsu's belief that causing a fuss would make her father focus his attention on her. Natsu initially refuses to believe it, but everything Jinya is saying makes perfect sense. She wanted something to make her father treat her like a real daughter, and all of a sudden a monster appeared to make that happen. Jinya tells her that the only way this demon will ever go away is if she regains control over her feelings, but Natsu doesn't know how she's supposed to do that. Jinya tells her that all she needs to do is come to terms with the way she feels and earnestly asks him to slay the demon. Natsu thinks for a moment and realizes all she ever wanted was to be loved by Juzo as his daughter, but she didn't think he cared about her that way. That's why she ended up believing that if she were attacked by a demon, that maybe he would start loving her more. And now those ugly emotions have manifested in front of her. So in a sense, that demon is her. However, Zenji tells her not to think like that. That demon may have been born from her feelings, but that's not what matters right now. Zenji knows that Juzo loves Natsu more than anything in the world, and Natsu loves him just as much, but neither of them is good at expressing it. She'll need to start addressing her feelings more honestly from now on, but Zenji swears that he will be by her side to help her through it. This gives Natsu the confidence to finally let go of the doubt and self-loathing that spawned the demon, so she tells Jinya to kill it once and for all. And as soon as Jinya hears those words, he pulls out his sword and slashes the demon in half. This time, the demon's body fades into a white mist, so Jinya is certain that it isn't going to come back anymore. However, later on in the night, after Natsu has gone back to bed, the demon's body begins to rematerialize. Jinya expected something like this to happen, because if the demon was truly formed from only Natsu's negative emotions, then it would have ceased existing as soon as she made the decision to let go of them. That means the emotions of someone else were mixed into this demon. And as far as Jinya knows, there's only one other person in this region who had the potential to be a demon, and that was Juzo's dead wife. With Natsu's negative emotions gone, the demon is struggling to keep its shape, but the daughter it keeps calling out for isn't Natsu, it's Suzune. That means Jinya is Juzo's missing son, and this demon is his and Suzune's mother. To be perfectly honest, Jinya has no clear memories of what his mother was like when she was still alive, but he is sad that things ended up this way, and all he can do now is put an end to his mother's suffering so she can finally move on. The next morning, Jinya is set to leave, so Zenji and Natsu come out to thank him again for all his help. Jinya tells them there's no need to thank him because he already got his reward, and besides, this is his way of making amends. Natsu doesn't understand what he means, so Jinya explains that getting older has allowed him to reflect on his actions in the past. While he believed he was doing the right thing by running away with Suzune back then, he never stopped to consider how his actions would affect his father or the world for that matter. Natsu still doesn't understand what he's talking about, so Jinya just tells her to appreciate the kindness that her father shows her. He then starts walking away, and a few moments later, Juzo comes out. Zenji asks why Juzo didn't come out to thank Jinya as well, but he didn't see a reason to, because he knew from the moment that Jinya arrived that he would be able to get the job done. Zenji wonders why Juzo would have so much faith in a random demon slayer, but Juzo says it's perfectly normal for a parent to have faith in their child. The others still haven't figured out that Jinya is Juzo's son, and Juzo doesn't intend to explain it to them. So he tells Zenji to get back to work already, or he's going to be demoted. Zenji doesn't want that, so he leaves to go do his job, and Juzo starts leading as well. But before he does, Natsu has something she wants to say. She asks him if there's anything she can do to help out, but Juzo is curious as to why she would ask. She explains that Jinya told her she should repay Juzo for his kindness, and Juzo is happy to know that Jinya still thinks of him as a good person. But he tells Natsu that she doesn't need to worry about repaying him, because the best way a child could ever make their parent happy is by living a long and happy life. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.